And there's another sort of, 7 minutes of that. Actually, that was quite good on the swearing front. Sorry, is that Amy? I can see.
No, Naomi.
Naomi.
Yeah, she's been attracted by the sound of your accordion.
Yeah, sorry about the swearing, Naomi. I don't expect you've ever heard that sort of thing before.
I was getting just upset. I just heard the sad music. I was like, what is that? And it just came to me saying that. That's what least expected. Fine.
Yeah, and yeah, the swearing, I don't think she noticed, and
sorry about
no, that's all right. It's fine.
Can I make some tarts?
Can you make some tarts?
Yeah.
Yes.
Shall I get the going?
You can make tarts. You're very good at tarts. Naomi's very good at tarts.
Excellent. Jam tarts.
You should try it.
Jam tarts.
Probably Biscoff.
I don't just make jam tarts.
You know those little caramelized brown sugar biscuits you get with coffee? If you order a coffee, sometimes you get those little red biscuits in the red packaging. Oh yeah, here we are. This.
It's so good.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
It is. Well, that's 15 quid's worth. That's a massive, massive jar of it. We're a bit addicted to it here, aren't we?
Yeah.
Right, you go make some Biscoff tarts. That's how we roll.
Excellent. I've been making biscuits and also fermented things.
Yes. So alcohol.
Sorry,
Moonshine.
I'm just gonna get my recipe book.
Yeah, that's good. You go for it. So I actually pressed record while you were playing. So,
okay. That's good. You've got the whole biscuit conversation in there. So
yeah.
Excellent. Yeah.
Well, we're in lockdown.
Yeah.
You're in your house. I'm in my house. We're connected by the power and the magic of Zoom.
Yes, we are.
And we have this chance to chat and to have a little look at your career and your life as it is now. And I've got a stack here of compact discs. You gave me most of these because some of them are quite rare now, but some of them I already had, including this, which I bought from Our Price.
Our Price?
In 1999.
Wow.
Or maybe it was 2000. Yeah, 2000. It says 2000 on the back. So
wow.
by that point, I was a big fan, Sam.
Well, now that I know you, Dave, I'm a big fan of you as well.
So I first came across you through a little band called Pink Floyd.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. And I was introduced to them by my dad and another chap talking about how Comfortably Numb was the best guitar solo ever. So I thought, I must hear this.
Yeah.
My dad had The Wall on vinyl, so I listened to that and I loved it. And the same chap he was talking to lent me a VHS, and on that VHS was Pulse, what I now know as Pulse,
yeah.
recorded off the telly. And he lent it to me, and I don't think I gave it back for about 3 years.
Right.
Because I'd watch it probably once a month at least.
Not even now.
Well, now I have the DVD.
Yeah.
You know, and I think I found the video disc of it in Hong Kong in about 2002, maybe even before that. So I had like a DVD of it before it was officially released. But there was this song in the concert, and it's called "The Great Gig in the Sky." And there was this amazing singer who kicked the whole thing off. 3 singers, but one white girl, blonde, and she kicked the whole song off with the first opening bit. And I was such a geek that I went and researched everybody that was on the stage.
Yes.
Particularly after I got the CD version of Pulse, and I went through the sleeve notes as I still do, looking at who did what, and I discovered that this blonde lady was called Sam Brown, and and then I sort of started to dig around and find out what everyone had done. I found out you'd had some hits when I was very small in the late 80s. But I think there's not a human being in this country that doesn't know the song Stop. It's just one of those songs. So I found out that was you. And I also realised that you were touring with Jools Holland.
Yeah.
And my parents and I used to go every year to see Jools Holland back then.
Excellent. Whereabouts?
Well, we would go to the BIC, the BIC.
Yeah.
Bournemouth International Centre.
Yeah.
And I remember once, I can't remember what year it was, it must have been 99 or 2000. I was right at the front, because by the end of the concert, even though everyone was sat down, everyone would stand up.
Yeah.
And then sort of move to the front for a dance.
Yeah.
And I remember standing right in front of where you were. And I had a Pink Floyd t-shirt on, and I was that archetypal music geek kid.
Perfect.
So that's a bit about how I came across you. And I had CDs of Jools Holland with you singing on it. And like I say, I bought your album in 2000 on CD, which I still have, and loved it. But we'll go through the albums maybe in a minute. So I'm going to throw open the first question to you.
Right.
And that is, what is your earliest musical memory?
It would have been, do you mean performing music or listening to music or anything?
Well, let's go for both if you want.
Okay, well, I think performing music was, well, when I say performing loosely based, I think I was about 9 or 10. And my dad had one of the first multi-track recording studios in the country, in Chigwell in Essex. And it was called The Grange. And we had a lot of people come and record there. Pink Floyd, Steve Marriott, Stevie Wonder, lots of other people. My dad did all his stuff there. And I remember being, there were sort of fabulous hippie parties going on, where people would stay up till all hours of the next day. And I remember being dragged out of bed at about 4 a.m. to come and sort of make up a 3-part backing vocal section on something they were recording.
Oh no.
It's your phone, Dave.
Yeah, it's coming through on my flipping...
You want to get it?
No, she's not playing that one.
You've reminded me.
If I turn my phone onto airplane mode, then that won't happen.
Yeah, I'm going to do the same, actually. Not that my phone will come through, but...
That was my friend James, who I will ring back. So this is part of the nature of doing this Zoom thing, is that we're right in the middle of real life, and it's not the most smooth experience of an interview, probably, but
that's okay.
Yeah,
that's okay. So and I suppose the big musical memory, I think that sort of is probably not what people would expect. We're a very musical family. My dad was obviously very musical. My mum was very musical. She was really good. She played classical piano. She was a great singer, and she was a party girl, but not in the sort of debauched sense of party girl. She just was really good fun. She was lovely. Everyone loved my mum. And she was a backing vocalist and did a lot of session work. So really, my earliest memories of music and what sort of formed my singing voice, if you like, were well, initially meeting my mum's friends who were session singers, and they would come round. My mum would have these parties, my mum and dad would, but my mum would have these parties. This is when I was a little bit older, probably 12, and we just moved out to Oxfordshire, and my mum was very good. What?
Out of London?
Yes, sort of west of London, west of London, near, sort of south of Oxford.
Okay.
So, yeah, near Henley-on-Thames, Reading, that sort of area. And my mum was very... Pardon?
I'm from Reading.
Oh, are you now?
We escaped.
Claim to fame. So my mum was very good friends with a lady called Joanne Stone. And she was part of she did backing vocals. She was a Black American lady. And she'd come over to live in England and was married to a white English man. And they were known as, and you'll have to Google this afterwards, R&J Stone. And they had a hit called And We Do It, which was a real fantastic sort of schmaltzy pop duet. It was really good. It was lovely. And so anyway, Joanne used to come over, and Joanne's cousin was Madeline Bell. Have you heard of...
No, I haven't.
Dave, have you heard of Madeline Bell?
No, I haven't, no.
Oh, okay. So Madeline Bell was in a group called Blue Mink. So this is all in the 70s. And Black American singer, Joanne's cousin. So basically, they were into Stevie Wonder, very early Thelma Houston, Earth, Wind and Fire, Quincy Jones. And so they would come round and we would all literally dance around the living room, singing to all these, very much rhythm and blues and soul artists. So that was quite a big influence for me, because that definitely wasn't my dad's area of expertise in music. But my mum was a very soulful singer. She sang backing vocals on Come Up and See Me, Make Me Smile. She used to sing with T-Rex. I mean, everyone. She sang with everyone. She was one of the top session singers in the country. So, yeah, so sorry, very long-winded answer. And of course, I started writing when I was 13 and loved Kate Bush, Joni Mitchell, Joan Armatrading. Randy Newman was a really big influence for me. Lots of people. I'm going to stop now. You can ask the next question.
So there's these parties happening in your parents' house.
Yeah.
You grow up around the music industry with your dad and your mum both being involved. So do you think, in a sense, it was almost a foregone conclusion? Have you ever considered doing anything else other than music?
I think because I started singing so young, not really. But, I think it's really important to uncover the romance of this situation. Because I think people have this sort of idealized view of a musical family. They kind of picture a sort of Waltons type scenario with musical instruments around the breakfast table. I mean, my dad played music in his studio, but I was never involved with my dad musically at all, not at all. He didn't get involved in what I did, and I wasn't really that keen on the sort of music he was doing anyway. So it was my mum who was the big influence. And really, music for me at home as I was growing up was about being on my own, playing piano, writing songs, writing lyrics, listening to a lot of music. I liked drawing and I liked knitting, and I was good at English, and I was good at art, very much those sort of creative things. So was it a foregone conclusion? Only in the same way that a plumber's children would see plumbing as a good, viable career opportunity because they know quite a lot about it, being involved, only in that sense.
Mm-hmm. And your brother, obviously growing up together, he's musical too. He's been very involved in your catalogue of your own work.
Yeah.
So was there much interaction between you two musically growing up?
Not loads. I started writing very young. I think it was 12 or 13 when I started writing my own songs. and I didn't. I booked, we had a studio at home, but I was very shy and I didn't think my songs were very good at all. So I actually, with the money I earned from doing session work, booked a studio and drove there in my Morris Minor. In fact, I got a cab because I was, I think, 13 or 14. And I went and recorded my songs at a studio that I found in the Yellow Pages called Woodcray Manor Farm, I think, Woodcray Farm. But Pete played guitar. He always played guitar. He's a great guitarist. And he was also very good at electrical things. So Pete is someone he's a very left side of the brain person. He's brilliant with, he used to take radios apart and put them back together. And he was a boy with a motorbike, always taking things to bits, finding out how they worked. So Pete was very much into that. He's incredibly musical, but he wasn't really, let me put this in a nice way, Pete wasn't encouraged and necessarily nurtured as a child. My mum loved him to bits, but he left home at 16 and went to live in London on his own. He left home with quite a lot of encouragement from my dad, I hasten to add. But Pete then, he always played guitar. He played music with his mates. He had bands with his mates. We did a couple of recording things together at home in the studio. And then we went our separate ways, really. And it wasn't until I was 20, 21 that I started working with Pete again. Because actually in our late teens and early 20s, we really did not get on. But then we started spending time together, and it just worked out really well. I'm very, very close to my brother. He's a brilliant musician and he's a brilliant man. He's fantastic. And
I don't know this. Who's older?
Me.
Right. By how many years?
A year and a half.
Okay, so you're quite close in age as well.
Yeah, 20 months or something like that, I think.
Right. And it's just the two of you?
Yeah, just the two of us. I have a foster brother. My mum and dad adopted their best friend's son, Richard, who's a great drummer, played with Rory Gallagher, Steve Marriott, still plays now, plays with Paul Rogers, Deborah Bonham. He's a rock drummer. He is fantastic, yeah.
My friends in Chichester have just been recording Deborah Bonham's new album.
Oh, well, you will have met Rich, I expect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shout out to Paul and Kathy Burton and David Evans over at Old Chapel Studios. So let's go for the beginning then of your sort of solo career, as it were. Actually, before we do that, let me ask, who gave you your first sort of gig in terms of session work?
The Small Faces.
Small Faces. Was that post Ronnie Wood?
Ronnie was, post Ronnie Wood. Yeah, so it was, I can't remember what year it was. It's an album called Playmates. And it was Ian McLagan, Ronnie Lane, Kenny, what's his name, the drummer? Kenny Wood? No, Kenny Jones. I've missed someone. I can't remember. I was very young. But yeah, so it was that, Steve Marriott, basically. I used to gig with Steve Marriott in his solo group. So I used to do backing vocals with my mum. So yeah, Playmates, 1977 it was released.
Okay, so from there, did anything substantial come along that sort of was your mainstay for a while, or was it sort of bits and pieces?
Well, I was still at school, so I was supposed to be studying for exams, and I ended up just doing more and more session work. I think I was quite quick, and although my voice was still very young then, when you're singing harmonies, obviously it's about the blend, because in those days you didn't do the harmonies separately, you did them as three people singing together. So it was more important that the blend was right and that you were in tune and that the phrasing was right and all that stuff. So I did all sorts of sessions. I can't remember what they were now. Quite a lot of stuff like Summertime Special, where you were booked by the BBC and you go in at 10 in the morning, you finish at 10 at night, and you rehearse all day, and it's film, so that sort of thing, Wogan, things like that. I worked with Adam and the Ants and Spandau Ballet and all sorts of people.
Okay, so there's quite a few bits and pieces, and then at some stage, you are able to go and make this.
Yes.
So tell me how that came about.
Okay.
It's your first solo album, I should explain, called Stop.
Yes. So I can't remember when, 1983, 1983 probably. Slightly, actually earlier than that. I was about 17 and I was asked to do a film with B.A. Robertson. Do you remember B.A. Robertson? Scottish guy.
I was born in 1983.
Yeah, oh, sorry. Yeah, but you listened to Pink Floyd.
Yeah.
So anyway, I was asked to do a film and there were a couple of songs in it. And I met this guy who's a producer and I met his manager, who's a lady called Lisa Denton. And I started working with her when I was about 15, I think. And Lisa and I got on very well. She worked at a top London recording studio, or she had an office there. And she managed me, and I was writing songs, and she took my songs around. And eventually, I think it was probably 1984, 1985. We were talking to some people at Phonogram, a guy called Brian Shepherd and a guy called Chris Briggs. So Chris Briggs was the head of A&R, Brian Shepherd was the managing director, and they said, we definitely want to sign you. We love what you're doing. And Lisa knew them, she'd worked with them, she's a bit older than me, she'd worked with them years ago. And I ended up, cut a long story short, they left Phonogram and they joined A&M Records, and it took 2 years for me to get signed to A&M. And I think that was 1986 I signed to them eventually. So, and that was it. And then started making the record. Initially started it with a guy called Pete Smith, the producer who did Dream of the Blue Turtles with Sting, and was a fantastic bloke. But the way he heard it was very session musician orientated. And I think I wanted it to be a bit more organic than that, a bit more band led. Although actually in retrospect, the people he booked were just absolutely, they were amazing, you know. Anyway, that's when I started working with my brother. So, and eventually Stop came out in 1987.
The single?
The first single was Walking Back to Me.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was released in 1987.
Yeah.
I can't remember the years of the singles. No.
Right.
But yeah, so.
Yeah. And at some point the song Stop does come out as a single.
Yeah, that was in 1987. So,
okay.
Yeah.
And really, that's, would you describe that as your most well-known song? That's my wife.
Hello.
Sam.
Nice to see you.
Grabbing a banana. I'm on an NHS England meeting, but they're on mute.
Oh. It's all go here.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah, the song comes out. How did it do in the charts? Was it, because we know it as such a standard now almost. I mean, it's been covered so many times. And like I said earlier, it's just one of those songs that's just known. I wasn't sort of old enough to register it at the time. What position it went to in the charts? Was it a number one? I don't even know.
Well, what happened was it was released in England, and radio wouldn't play it. They wouldn't playlist it. And they tried, the pluggers tried, and they still wouldn't playlist it. However, A&M's an international company, and it was also released in Holland, Germany, Belgium, Spain, France, everywhere, Russia. Although I don't think that was an official release. And it went straight to number one in Holland. There was a fantastic head of marketing called Rudy, and he was just absolutely brilliant. And it went to, we went over to do a promo trip, and we got off the plane and everyone was going, you're number one, you're number one. So that kicked everything off. And I think about a year later, the English radio, I mean, I'm talking about, forgive me, but I am talking about the BBC here. The independent radio stations were amazing to me. But it couldn't get playlisted on national radio. until they were pretty much embarrassed into it because it went to number one everywhere else. So, you know, it was pretty sad, really, the whole playlisting thing in those days. It was, you know, wear a short skirt and they'll probably playlist your record. It was all a bit like that, you know, which in retrospect, given what's come to light these days, is, you know, it's just, I mean, I was so not that person. So yeah, so that's what happened, and I think Stop didn't get very. It went to number 2 here.
Right.
I think
Not
the album,
bad.
no, number 2. Well, the album and single went to number 2 and number 4. I can't remember which was which, but England was the least of my worries because it just went mad everywhere else. I mean, all over Europe. I spent 3 years promoting Stop.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how did that particular song come about? What's the genesis of it?
Ah, well, I don't know what your listeners or watchers are going to be thinking, but this interview is going to go on forever such a long time.
This interview is very selfish. This is me indulging my
geekness. You need to put a notice up telling them to have snacks at the ready and, you know, a glass of wine or whatever. Yeah. Before I signed to A&M Records, I signed to their sister publishing company, run by lovely Scottish bloke, Stuart Hornell, who is still kind of my publisher. And he was great, real character, lovely bloke. So he signed, I had a publishing deal before I had a record deal.
Mm-hmm.
So I signed to a publishing company called Rondell, and Stuart said, I'm sending you to LA. I want you to write with some people out in LA. So he sent me to LA. I was 19. I was a bit of a spotty oik, ex-punk rocker, dungarees, no makeup, very much not an LA person. And I wrote with loads of different people, and I met some great people. And one of the guys I met was called Greg Sutton, who's an amazing artist in his own right. Look out for Salvation Sunday on, I think it's on Facebook. He's a great singer. He used to play bass with Bob Dylan and Marie McKee, and he's a fantastic bloke. And I was driving from one writing session to another because I do, you know, writing different days with people in LA. And I just got this idea. The idea for the chorus came into my head, and I started singing it. And by the time I got back to my apartment, I sort of had the chorus and a bit of the verse, got my piano out. And then I took it to Greg, and I finished the song with Greg and another guy called Bruce Brody. Yeah, so that was how it came. It came to me. The song came to me. It did literally sort of fall out of the sky and into my head, I think.
So interesting how many songwriters say similar things about how songs turn up, or they fall from the sky, or they catch them, you know.
I mean, a lot of songwriting for me was just sitting down at the piano and playing and singing. And the rest of my material up to that point was not, I didn't really listen to a lot of soul artists. I listened to Stevie Wonder a lot, but I didn't listen to blues, for instance, you know, traditional sort of blues music. I wasn't a blues person. I was I suppose, a soul person. I listened to people who were very much influenced by blues, but were very unique and original. So if you see what I'm not saying. So the blues influence was lost on me. So I didn't realise that Stop was a blues ballad.
Yeah.
For years, you know, I didn't realise that's where it had come from.
It's quite minor blues, isn't it? It's sort of, yeah, quite a hybrid between soul and blues. The girl that I manage, singer called Fleur. Hello to Fleur if you're watching.
Hello, Fleur.
She covers Stop. She sings Stop, and she brings a youthful soulfulness to it, because she's very much into the sort of Sam Smith, that modern soul thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's not that clued up. She's only 15, you know.
Yeah.
She's not that clued up on the sort of the roots of soul at the moment. But she's standing on the shoulders of yourself and others who have come before and sort of translated the vibe and the feel of soul into pop. And I love how many styles can come together in one song.
Yeah.
And how that can be then interpreted. So thank you for sharing that. It's very, very interesting. And obviously it's quite a personal, poignant lyric.
Well,
you were 19 when you wrote it.
Yeah, you know what? That wasn't me I was writing about. I mean, funnily enough, all my other songs are very much my take on the world, how I see things. But Stop, it's kind of a story. It's like acting. I was never that woman. Was never that person in that relationship. It's not autobiographical in any way.
I was watching you with Van Morrison, and he was saying, look, just because I've sung it doesn't mean I've lived it.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess it's like writing a novel in a way, you know, or a poem or a story.
Yeah.
But yeah, so anyway, so that was it really. And I, you know, people say to me, I mean, it's, how old is it now? God, I do my songs.
33 years.
Yeah, 1987, like 33 years. Don't you get sick of it? You know, certainly when I was still singing, don't you get sick of singing it? But I don't, you know, I never have. I think it's a good song, and it's been very good to me.
It is a good song. Right, let's move on then to April Moon.
Yeah.
Your second release with A&M, is that right?
Yeah, that's it.
There it is.
There it is.
From this fantastic box set, the A&M Years.
Yes.
With loads of bonus material on it, and even a DVD. And I love the fact it's got some DMs on the back there.
I've still got those boots. They're upstairs.
Have you really?
Yeah.
Fantastic. They don't make them like that anymore.
They don't. And those second hand when I got them.
So tell us about this one a little bit, because obviously it's a major label release, the follow-up to a big album. Tell us a bit about April Moon.
Okay, so April Moon was, as I said before, I did about 3 years promotion for Stop all over the world, Europe, Australia, America, Russia, and there wasn't much time for music. In fact, there wasn't any time at all for music. But obviously with Stop, we started to put a band together and perform live. So it was quite a heavy band. At this point, I was very led by my brother in the sound, I think, because he was very much a guitar person. And I wrote everything on piano. And whilst I did play in the band, I didn't feel confident enough. And he was very confident in the way he saw it, you know. So April Moon was written, I mean, I always wrote all the time. You know, I was always writing. My hotel room, at home, it was all I did was sing and write, sing and write, sing and write. And so I wrote the album, and we had to sort of squeeze recording in around my promotion schedule. So it took quite a long time to record. In my opinion, as an album goes, I think it's a little bit too long. I love all the songs on there, but I do think is there 16 songs on it or something? Can't remember.
It's all in Roman numerals. No, I'm not very good at that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16.
Yeah.
Yes.
Bit too long, I think.
And then this one has got bonus tracks on. It's got some 7-inch remixes and things.
Right, yes. So, yes, so one of the things, so what was lovely was that Dave Gilmour guested on that album, which was brilliant. And I met Dave when I was, through my parents, and then he recorded some demos for me when I was young, 16 or something like that, 15.
Yeah, because he's on Stop as well, isn't he?
He's on Stop as well, yeah, on I'll Be in Love, he plays the guitar solo.
Yeah.
So, but that album was, I suppose, a bit more how I wanted it to sound in a way through Pete.
Yeah.
So it was very much sort of a band album, and I wrote a lot with the people in the band, and we did so that was that. But at that point, I was probably, I wasn't particularly enamored with the lifestyle that went with constantly promoting music.
Right.
I understand the value of it, but it's not necessarily valuable to me. It's not a way that I want to spend my time, is going all over the world, talking to people who ask the same questions, generally speaking, in those days. Not everyone, I met some great people as well. Meeting marketing people, sales people at record companies, all that sort of thing, doing personal appearances, which, PR to me is so nothing to do with music. It's got nothing to do with music. It's a different thing altogether. It's a different career path. Kylie Minogue I love her voice. I love the records she makes. She makes great pop records. Sorry, do you remember Kylie Minogue?
I do.
Yeah, okay. But what she's brilliant at is being a pop star. She is, absolutely one of the best ever. Madonna, Frank Sinatra.
Katy Perry, not the best voice ever by quite some margin, but a very effervescent, attractive personality and a bit of a media, playgirl. She'll make it work.
So I think what you get is people who. So if you take, I don't know much about Katy Perry, but I do know a lot about Sia. Do you know Sia?
Oh, yeah. Okay. My kids love Sia.
I love Sia, but Sia, it seems to me, is to get involved in that world, and that's how I was. I didn't mind doing it. I knew I had to do it, but for me, it wasn't a natural thing, and I don't think I was very good at it in a way because I was always too honest. So, yeah, I've forgotten what the question was now. Oh yeah, so April Moon. So we recorded it. We eventually finished it, and that was when my mum was then diagnosed with cancer. So everything was sort of going a bit wibbly wobbly at that point.
And for anyone who's interested, you can find some amazing band performances on YouTube from April Moon era.
Oh really?
Astonishing.
Oh, you keep freezing.
Yeah, so do you. Sorry about that.
That's right.
But yeah, from about 1992 or something like that, or 91. There's some TV live performances I found, and you guys are cooking on gas. You really are stonking.
Quite a heavy band.
Yeah, but you guys are obviously very close and tight musically, and your performances are astonishing, I think.
Well, I've never seen anything from April Moon on YouTube.
Yeah, it's definitely up there. So you just briefly mentioned your mum and her diagnosis with cancer, which leads us kind of onto the next album, doesn't it? 43 Minutes.
Yes. The height of my commercial decline.
But maybe the height of your artistic endeavour, arguably.
Well, it seems to be a very popular album, 43 Minutes. It's 43 minutes and 34 seconds long, hence the title. And at this point, my mum was becoming very ill and nursing her at home, and she died in 1991. And excuse me. So basically, I suppose, obviously it's absolutely life-changing. She was very young. She was 50. My life hadn't been particularly normal up to that point. And this was, difficult to deal with. But I think I was very fortunate in a lot of ways because I didn't have there was no blueprint to me as to how I was supposed to react to this. So what I did was I wrote the album. I wrote 43 minutes, and I just stayed at home, and I just wrote, and I cried, and I wrote, and I slept, and that was the result of it. Now, I felt very strongly about the album, needless to say, because it was a journey, really. And I spoke to my brother, and I said, because it very much been a collaboration up to that point, and Pete's probably really, not so much now, but in those days, was a much stronger character than I was. I was a bit more easygoing, I guess, you know. So if he had a strong idea, he was strong about it, so I would just step back, because it didn't matter to me, you know, whose ideas were used. It wasn't important. But on this album, I said, look, I want you to produce it, but it stays exactly as it is. This is it. This is the album, and la la la. And he said, okay. He said, well, the record company aren't going to like it. I said, well, they may not, but let's demo it. And he said, well, how do you want to demo it? So we talked about it, and we decided who we wanted to play on it. That was the most important thing to me. So Herbie Flowers was someone I'd worked with, and I absolutely adore Herbie Flowers.
Now, I know that name from Sky.
Ah, okay, all right. Well, Herbie, Sky, of course, as well. But I'd met him through, I can't remember when, doing backing vocals, or through my dad, or what have you. Maybe working with Sky, maybe, I can't remember. But I loved his bass playing. I absolutely loved his bass playing. So I said, I want Herbie Flowers on bass. And there's a drummer called Tony Newman, who was our drummer Richard Newman's dad. So he was older, same age as Herbie, but he always used to play with Herbie, and they were just the best rhythm section. So again, Tony played T-Rex, David Bowie, that sort of stuff. And then we wanted a percussionist, and there's this woman called Jodie Linscott who played with a band called Kokomo, who is just the most beautiful woman you will ever see. Everything she does, she looks like she's the leading part in a film, but she is the loveliest person. She's very cool, very sweet-natured, and an amazing musician. She played, I think, with Eric Clapton, and was generally did a lot of session work as well. So there was Herbie, Tony, and Jodie, and Pete on guitar, and that was our basic band. At this point, we didn't know if Pete was going to do guitar or not. So it was me on piano, Herbie on bass, Tony on drums, Jodie on percussion. So anyway, so what we did was we did a budget to demo the whole album, which was £11,000. So that was 5 days recording, rehearsing and recording. Okay, so that whole album was done in that time.
Wow.
We then went on to spend another 4 days doing overdubs, backing vocals, a couple of bits of keyboards from very dear friend Danny Shogger, who's amazing. And so I said to my manager, to Lisa, this is what we want, this is how we want to demo it. She got the okay from the record company, and we demoed it. And when they got it, they said, the managing director, Howard Berman, said, it's creatively brilliant, but commercially a disaster. And you need to record a single, and started suggesting covers to sort of tag on to the end of the album. Rows ensued with my manager and the head of marketing and the managing director. And in the end, I just said, right, Lisa, I said, I need to go and see Howard. And I went in and I said, look, I'm totally recouped as an artist. We don't have a future as far as working together goes. I'd like you to let me go. So we did. Wow. But they wouldn't I had to fight to get the album back off them. And eventually when I did, I released it on my own label, and, you know, the rest is history. And compared to Stop's 2 million, whatever it is, it sold 4,000 copies. But it's still selling today.
Absolutely, and rightly so.
So, yeah, sorry. Bit of waffling there.
No. I think it's great. You don't waffle at all. It's an amazing album, and one, I think you have to be pretty much inhuman not to feel the emotion in it, you know. So in the interim between 1992, when 43 Minutes comes out,
yeah,
and 1997 when Box comes along,
yeah,
you went on tour with Pink Floyd?
Well, yes, slightly more important than that. I had my daughter.
Absolutely.
So Vicky was born in September 1993. And I was still touring right up until 8 months, and jumping off my piano, I hasten to add, right up past 8 months pregnant until my hips dislocated.
That'll break your waters.
Yeah. So Vic came along, and then in 1993, Dave Gilmour phoned me, said, doing an album with Pink Floyd. I'd sung on some of his solo stuff. Will you come and do backing vocals? I said, yeah, of course, but I need to bring my baby with me because I'm still breastfeeding. So there we were doing backing vocals for the Division Bell, me with leaky tits, and everyone else being lovely. So we did the backing vocals, and he said, we're going on tour, will you come? I'd love to come, but I'll have to bring my daughter with me. He said, absolutely no problem at all. Then I get the manager and the tour manager phoning me saying, you can't bring a baby on this tour because it's a massive outfit, it's a massive thing. And I took their point. I said, look, I don't have a problem. By the way, this is the third time I've been asked to go on tour with Pink Floyd, and I'd had to turn them down the first 2 times. So I really did want to do it. And I think Dave's brilliant. I think he's a fantastic person and musician. I didn't really know everyone else. I knew a couple of the musicians, Gary Wallace, Guy Pratt. And I kind of worked with all of them in different ways. I did a Columbian benefit with Dave Gilmour years before at the Albert Hall. So I really wanted to do it. And long story short, did end up going. It was a year's tour. We were in England for 2 days in that time. And it was Vicky's first year of her life. She was 3 months old when we left. A bit more than 3 months old, I think. We went out to Palm Springs at the beginning, after rehearsals here, beginning of 1994, and that was it. We were off.
Amazing. And I mean, for me, The Division Bell's my favourite album ever.
Is it?
Mm.
Well, that's interesting. That's not the Pink Floyd album I'd choose, but then, of course, the more you listen to them, the more interesting it gets, you know.
For me, it's where it all comes together in terms of melody and the quality of the recording.
Yeah.
The atmosphere on that album is like no other. And it, you know, like most people, their favourite album becomes their favourite album because of what it means to them at a particular time in their life.
Yeah.
And that album sort of came into my life when I was about 15 or so. You know, a few years after it had come out. But it's stayed with me ever since. So it's a big one for me, Division Bell.
Good.
So yeah, absolutely. So you've got little Vicky.
Yes.
You're on tour with Pink Floyd. You're playing to sold out arenas, you know, most nights.
Yeah.
I mean, how did you cope with that? How did you manage that?
Well, it was good. It was good for me. I think it was good for Vic. You know, life, I mean, something like a Pink Floyd tour is so incredibly well organised. And it turned out that everyone loved Vic. There were other kids on the tour who were a bit older, but she was such a happy child. It was fine, you know, everyone, basically you're on a big tour like that. There's tour buses, there's planes, private planes, there's, you know, all the travel is organised, everything is organised for you. So it was very easy. It wasn't a problem. The only problem actually was that because of the sort of places we were staying in and the fact that my husband came with me for some of it and then we had a nanny for the rest, you have to eat in, you know, so you're stuck in, because I needed someone to look after Vic while I was doing the gigs, obviously. Yeah. So it was very expensive. So I didn't actually come out of it with, you know, a huge amount. But as an experience, it was absolutely incredible. I loved it. It was a great time. It was very, compared to my life now, it was incredibly easy and an amazing way to earn a living, you know.
Yeah, and we talked on the phone recently and asked you about the choreography of the backing vocalists, the three of you,
Yes. Yeah.
and sort of the seamless moves that you're making as you're singing that go with the songs, and sort of no two songs are the same. It's amazing, and you actually put that together, didn't you?
Well, the three of us together put it.
Oh right,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah.
I mean, they're, Claudia, who's sadly not with us anymore, and Durga were, obviously fantastic movers, great dancers. Durga in particular is very physical in her approach to everything. So yeah, we literally just went in a room and sat there and worked it out together. It was fun. It was fun. It was good.
You didn't get paid extra for dancing.
No.
You should have done.
I think we wanted it to look a certain way, and Durga had done previous tours, so she kind of very much had a look about her and the way she moved. Durga's a very unique artist. She's an artist in her own right as well. So she was. They already had a little bit kind of worked out, but there's a thing in the trade called the session singer shuffle. So, really, it was kind of an awful lot of embellishment on the session singer shuffle, I'd say.
One question I wanted to ask about that tour is who's the biggest party animal?
Oh, I'd say probably Gary Wallace.
Ah, the percussionist.
And Durga. Yeah, Gary Wallace and Durga. And Guy Pratt as well.
See, I know one other of you guys, and that's Tim Rennick, who I've just released a track with. Actually, we did a collaboration.
Oh, fantastic! Oh, well, Tim, yeah, I mean, Tim was that little bit older,
yeah.
So he was definitely a party animal, but in a very kind of laid back. Yeah, I kind of done all this before. I mean, I'm sure everyone else had as well, but it was. I think Durga, Gary, and Guy. They had the drive. They had the partying drive. Wasn't me. I was in my hotel room eating salad and trying to get my daughter to sleep.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Good times. Well, thank you for those memories. Let's move on to the next release. Well, let's talk quickly about Box. So Box comes along in 1997 on Demon Records.
Yeah.
It's 12 songs. Again, your brother's producing with you.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about Box.
I think, Box was very much a band album. And we toured a lot at that point. Certainly with April Moon, we did a lot of touring, and the band was sort of solidified. Although we had a couple of different people. We had Claire Nicholson on keyboards and singing, who's fantastic, and Erin McRobbie on bass, who I went to school with. And Paul Bangash still on guitar, Rich on drums, and it was a pretty heavy band. But we recorded that out in Huckenden Farm, which was Alvin Lee's studio. I don't know if you've heard of Alvin Lee, amazing guitarist. So we recorded it out there, and again we did it fairly quickly. It didn't take I can't remember how long it took, but I'd started writing it on the Floyd tour, and I'm just trying to think of what the songs are on Box. You've got quite a lot of, I think there were less collaborations on it. There were some collaborations.
You got Ebb and Flow, obviously Box, the title track opens the album, then Ebb and Flow, Whisper, I Forgive You, They're the Ones, Liberty and Reality, Embrace the Darkness, TOES or Toes.
Okay, so that's cool. That's actually very relevant at the moment, Toes. It's the obligatory Earth song.
Uh-huh.
So with reference to, lots of hippie chicks writing songs about peace and the planet, I guess it's my sort of take on that.
Intuition.
Intuitions. I wrote that with Pete, and a lovely guest vocal on that from a guy called Paul Mosley, who's still around and making fantastic music. A lovely bloke from the northeast. So I think definitely we're heading, for me personally, with Box, we're heading into me finding my feet from a writing point of view.
Right.
Just what I mean.
Yeah. And you toured that. When did your son come along?
95.
Okay, so he's born by then.
Yeah, so I wasn't just lolling about in those years between the albums.
No. Your most important releases.
Yes, my daughter and my son. Yeah.
And then we come to 3 years after Box, Reboot. Now, what's in the name of Reboot? What is there were you rebooting as an artist, or what's in the name?
I don't know really. I think I don't know. I signed to this label Mud Hut, and I think they were quite a modern. They were young people, very much a young label, and I don't know. Reboot just felt like a good name, really. It was a slightly different album from the point of view of I produced some of the tracks on my own. So we kind of split the production. So Pete did some and I did some. I felt, I had a lot of production ideas and I wanted to, I've been in the studio since as long as I can remember, and I'm not as technical as Pete, and I'm not very good at knuckling down to technicality, whereas Pete is, if there's a problem, he wants to get to the bottom of it. He has to get to the bottom of it. It's in his nature. Whereas I'm like, if someone else can do it, that's fine by me. When you do it, then that's fine. I'll go make the tea. We had a studio at home in Scotland. So both my kids were born in Scotland, Vicky and Mo, and they grew up in a recording studio. My ex-husband, Robin Evans, is a producer. He was an engineer when I met him. And he was an assistant engineer on Stop, and April Moon, he engineered it. And
so you'd known him quite a long time then, or
yeah. We were together for over 15 years.
Look at these.
That's really not fair because I want to eat one. Well, they're not cooked yet.
They're about to go in the oven. Well done, darling. She's
well
been
done.
eating away in the back there in the kitchen, making tarts.
So the kids, we moved up to Scotland and bought an old schoolhouse and rebuilt it. My uncle built a studio on the side of the house for us, which had been burnt down.
I'm listening, just shutting the door.
Oh, he's shutting the door.
I'm shutting the door. Yeah.
And so we recorded Reboot at home, rehearsed it and recorded it at home, which was fantastic.
I love it. It's like I was saying about Division Bell, albums mean something to you because of when you pick them up and they come into your life.
Yeah.
And at this point, I was proper geeking out on everybody, and getting this album was like a bit of a revelation to me because I think I had Stop on cassette.
Yeah.
Already. But this was so much more up to date in terms of its production value. It sounded really fresh to me, and you've got Jools Holland playing on it, on a song or two, and there's just a lot of atmosphere in songs like Blood Run Cold, Learn to Listen. Those two are probably my favourites.
I like Time Bomb.
Yeah, Ticking Away Like a Time Bomb. That there's a feel to that album, I think, that means it's still probably my favourite. Don't know if you get that one very often, but no,
not that often actually. But I think this is the thing, isn't it? Going back to promoting things. If you want to get your music out there, you've got to put the legwork in. You've got to do the promotion. You have to spend on PR. Which I haven't done through my whole career. And to be honest, if I ever got my voice back, I probably still wouldn't, although I definitely make a bit more of an effort towards it. But Mud Hut were, we did all the usual things. We tried to get radio and we plugged it, and I don't think I can't remember if we actually got anything playlisted from there. But I like that album too. For me, it was a turning point, and funnily enough, it was a sort of a reboot because it made me a bit more confident in my own production ideas, and the sound that I wanted to go for. And it made me realise that if I did want to produce, I could. And Robin was fantastic to work with. He's my favourite engineer to work with in the studio. He's very, you know, nothing is too much trouble, and if he can make your idea work, he will do it. And not that Pete was like that as well.
Yeah. And so your brother and your husband at the time working together, was that ever claustrophobic?
No, we all got on well. Everyone got on well all the time. Never really, the only real problems were when Pete and I disagreed. And we'd sort of, that was hard because I'm just not a confrontational person at all. So it was upsetting more than anything else.
Yeah.
But that's okay. We got through it and we're closer for it. So.
And very personal question. You can say, pass, edit this out. But obviously, you're not married to Robin anymore. Was that one of those situations where you grow apart? I mean, did you? You know, it's a sad thing, obviously, when a marriage ends. But you're with a wonderful chap now, Tiernan, who I've met a couple of times, and there's that sort of the personal parallel that runs alongside your output. By the time we get to Of the Moment, was your first marriage over at that point?
Yes, so I'm not married now. I've only had one marriage, and that was to Rob. It didn't work. Having a family together didn't work with Robin for me. And I met someone else, and because I was away touring as well, and the kids were with me some of the time. And so we got divorced. I can't remember when, but it just didn't work. We get on great. We still talk.
Obviously, your parents, the two great kids.
The parents, the two lovely kids. Very lucky. And he's still at the house in Scotland, so he's still got the house and the studio up there. And I then went on into a relationship that really did not work at all and was tortuous, as I think is very well illustrated in the next album.
Well, that's why I asked, because there's songs like Loveless, You'd Think I'd Know Better by Now, Love Makes a Fool of Us All, Show Me Your Love. You know, there's even the song titles suggest that you're at
it's definitely heartbroken. But to me, it's my favourite album. Is
it? I was going to ask which was your favourite.
Yeah.
I think musically it's the most challenging.
I'm not quite sure how to take that.
No, as in your songwriting by this point is so evolved that it's so unpredictable musically. That's how I relate to this one. Okay,
so I get what you're saying, but I think that's true. I mean, for me, I don't mind the whole rock that with Pete went like Box and April Moon is very much a rock band, and it was quite heavy, you know. And that really was, I think, Of the Moment is most like what I started out doing. So it's the most me album out of all. It's me, apart from 43 Minutes, I think. But then you see musically, 43 Minutes has a band sound to it. And I don't listen to bands really. You know, I listen to singer-songwriters where the music is a composite of different ideas. So to me, Of the Moment is very much that. If whatever works for the song comes first. And I think that's why I like it. But I like all my albums. I never listened to my albums until fairly recently, having not been able to sing since 2007, which is quite a long time. I started about a year ago, maybe slightly less, listening to my albums in the car on my way up to work, because I have a long drive up to work. And I thought, actually, they're not bad.
How do you when you hear the songs now, is there enough distance from the writing and recording for you to be quite objective in how you hear them, or is it still very much you can hear your investment in the song, you can remember people playing certain parts, and it brings you back to the studio, or can you hear it for what it is more?
I think I do hear it for what it is. I think that, my experience of making records is, you know, you get so involved in the music. And what I've realized, you know, because I now teach ukulele, and so I teach people who are not in any way involved in the music industry or music really. Well, they are, you know, they're musical. But people are like, oh no, I don't want to do that one again. I'm bored of that. And I think, how can you get bored of any song? I mean, I understand that people have likes and dislikes, but when you're making music, that doesn't come into it. What comes into it is what's right, what feels right. So, you know, you might write a song and do a track, think this needs a sax on it, and you put a sax and you think, actually, that just doesn't work. You know, it's about making the picture work. It's about getting the colours right, and it's about it working as a whole thing. And that's not just one song; that's a whole album. And we've lost so much of that. Think about what's the Pink Floyd, the famous album?
Dark Side of the Moon.
Dark Side of the Moon. Think about Dark Side of the Moon. Okay, it's a whole piece. The album is a film. The album is a work.
Yes.
The Kick Inside, Kate Bush, Songs in the Key of Life. These are albums that have got a story. You don't listen to them out of order. You don't listen to the songs on Spotify out of order without looking at the sleeve notes. It is a whole experience, you know. And I think we've lost that. I think we've lost all of that.
Yeah.
And you know, making an album is just the most amazing experience. It's bloody hard work, and you have to use your brain, and you have to learn to play things that you actually can't really play, but you practice and you practice and practice. Just an 8-bar solo. It's like, well, I need to play this solo, usually because my brother's made me do it. You know, it's like, you've got to play an organ solo. So See This Evil in My Eye, for instance, there's an organ solo on it. It took me ages to work that out, to get it right. It wasn't just a load of kind of takes just run off like that. It was working out what fitted. I'm not a good enough player to do that, you know. So music's about dedication and listening, and people don't really seem to listen anymore. So I think in answer to your question, I think now I hear them very much in perspective with other music that I listen to. So, you know, I listen to, oh gosh, what do I listen to? I listen to probably quite old now, but the Propeller Heads. I listen to Sia. I listen to Corinne Bailey Ray. I listen to older music, you know, Randy Newman, Joni Mitchell, all those people. And I think at Turing breaks, I'm trying to think of modernish people I listen to. There aren't many. But I hear it in perspective with those things, if you see what I mean. So I listen to it as music that I want to listen to. I get a great thrill out of the fact that I'm listening to myself sing. I'm just a bit sad that I can't sing along to it.
Yeah, that sort of neatly brings us on to, I think this is the final release so far.
Yeah.
So Ukulele Invoice, there's 5 songs on here. Some of them are versions of songs on here.
Yeah, so that came first, because that's.
Oh, this came first.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, I got that wrong.
Yeah, well, I think that's 2005, isn't it?
Oh, let me quickly look. Do your research, Dave.
Well, that's all right.
Yeah, actually hasn't.
If you look,
any years written on it.
It should have copyright written.
Maybe on the CD itself it does. Hang on. Trying to find a year on it.
If you look inside the inside.
Oh no, it does. It does. Yeah, 2005. You're right. You're right.
Yeah.
Of course, you're right.
So those songs were written whilst touring with Jools, and that's when I started. When I picked up the ukulele, was, I don't know, maybe 2000, something like that. I picked up the ukulele, and so started taking it on tour with me, and yeah, well, that was that. So I did that just with Pete in an afternoon, and then that's why some of the songs are on the album with more stuff on them.
Yes. Yeah, like Void. So so this comes out in 2007, and at this point your voice is in trouble.
My voice was, well, it was released in 2007. So my voice went in the middle of 2006.
So this was recorded by then.
At the end of that, yeah, there were some things on that I couldn't quite get. My voice wasn't working properly.
I saw a video on YouTube again of you singing the whole of Great Gig in the Sky with David Gilmour's band in France. Yeah. And that was 2006. And you managed to do it, but you can hear that there's some strain in there.
Yeah.
That must have been around the point you were big,
I think it was around then. And I think what had happened, because I did have a massive breakdown around the divorce with Rob. And I think I was putting so much, I was just singing was everything. I was putting so much into it. I was singing very loud because Jools' band is incredibly loud. Yeah. And of course, the louder you sing, the more people turn you down. So the louder you sing, because you want to get that feeling out of it, but you're not getting it back. So, so I think I was singing too loud, and I was just putting so much of it was like shouting my emotions through my singing, if you like, and I don't know what happened. I mean, I just don't know. I don't know what's wrong with it. I don't know if it's a psychological issue that's governing some of my muscles. I don't know if it's the menopause. I don't know if I just overdid it and I've killed it. I really don't know. I mean, I'm a very pragmatic person, and I've had therapy for 3 years. I've done 2 courses of speech therapy. I've been to see lots of doctors. I've been to America and blah, blah, blah. And I haven't got to the bottom of it. So that's not to say that I won't, but I've got to work with what I've got now, and that's okay. And now there is something that you've missed in this discussion.
Go on.
Okay, so what's the first letter of the first album?
Oh yeah, this is cool, isn't it? So the first album is S, stop.
Yeah, and April Moon.
A.
And then a bit of a cheat, 43 minutes.
M.
Box.
Reboot.
At this point, I had no idea.
That's amazing. And then
of the moment, I had no idea that a fan came up to me at a gig and said, "Are you doing this on purpose? What's the next one going to be called?" I was like, "No."
So spooky.
I had no idea. So of the moment, yeah. So I've actually got a live album in the pipeline, which was recorded in, I can't remember when. I can't remember when it was recorded.
I think you mentioned this to me before. Am I right in thinking it was about 2002?
I think it's later than that. I think it's probably around, 2005. It's around that time, 2004 maybe. Anyway, it's mixed. It's ready to go, but it needs artwork and stuff, which I need money for. So I mean, I can do it. I just haven't got around to doing it because I've been doing too much ukulele. So that is coming out, and that's called Wednesday the something of April. So that's going to be our W. And I have been writing recently, so I think I will be recording again, definitely.
There'll be an N.
Huh? It'll be the N, yeah. I don't know what the N's going to be. It's a shame it's not a K, because it could be knickers, couldn't it?
Could be something like not done yet,
Yeah, not done yet. Not like it used to be.
Yeah. Well, we've kind of come to the end of your discography for now. And I, obviously, along with all of your fans, appreciate every minute of your music, and not just your output as an artist, but your work with other artists. And I think I speak for all of us when I say we hope that there will be new Sam Brown music in whatever form, whether it's ukulele, whether it's with your voice again or not, or piano or whatever. We're rooting for you.
Maybe an accordion album.
An accordion, ukulele, piano, whisper combo, which has never been heard before.
Something like that.
That'd be amazing. So thank you ever so much for your time. I really one memory I've got of you from the telly is watching Later with Jools Holland once, and I'd always look out and see if you were there or not, because they, you know, often Jools would do a number with his band, and I think you were definitely there at this point. That it was the first time The Darkness played. Do you remember?
Oh yeah, I do. Yeah.
And he climbs up on the piano and leaps over your head,
Yes.
playing a guitar solo. And it was along with things like At the Drive-In and a few other really memorable Jools moments. Is that one where?
No, that was a good one. What a great band!
Yeah. I love them. Yeah. Well, they're still going.
Yeah, he's amazing. I mean, he's an incredible singer. You know?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. So I won't take any more of your time today. Thank you very much for talking to me and then to others that watch this. It's been recording for, over an hour. So I'll let you go.
Lovely to see you, Dave.
Yeah, great to chat. We'll talk soon.
Thanks ever so much.
And hopefully we'll get your catalogue up for the streaming.
Yeah, definitely. That sounds good. That sounds good.
We're chipping away at it, aren't we?
We are.
All right. Cheers, Sam.
Thanks a lot.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.